You already know what it is, nigga.
And so,
Hey, let's get it.
if you looking for me, I'll be on the block.
Me too.
Anyways, guys, hopefully that doesn't happen to Bryce Young, but we got the Panthers roster grades. I had a pretty good prediction for him. Anyway, though, yeah, go watch that, and here's what I think about the Panthers this year. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fun NFL. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the Carolina Panthers 2025 roster grids. We just went through another NFC South team, that being the Falcons. We still have the Saints and Bucks to get through, so I guess we're halfway through this division. And it's in no particular order. You'll see a hint at the end of this one to figure out who the next offseason short's going to be. Anyway, though, this should be pretty fun. Again, the Panthers are definitely a team that's I'd probably say is up and coming. I mean, maybe they're not, but that's really besides the point. This is a team that has been the worst team in football. I mean, they were 2 years ago, and again, they were a little better last year, or a lot better if you're looking at it like that. But anyway, we'll get more into that when we get into it. But again, we'll definitely talk about their identity as well towards the end of this thing. But again, if you are new to the roster grading series, go watch the first 7 minutes of the Orifront, which is the Titans, because they were the first team that I roster graded. And again, that'll really explain the whole in-depth thing of this. But what you do need to know if you're just here as a Panthers fan looking to see how good your roster is, again, it's mostly subjective. So again, we'll see. Anyway, though, every single position will be graded out, again, we'll get a letter grade. That will amount to a point total. That point total will be amassed for the offense and the defense, but more importantly, a total point. And all those points will amass to, into one of these ranges, and that will more or less determine what range it'll be. And again, I can obviously change it if I need to. But again, most of the time it does fit in these ranges. Well, and again, this is really I'd probably say the absolute value of their roster, as well as, again, each side having their own set of ranges for a letter grade. As well, again, each position is weighted differently. Mostly, again, there's some positions that I'm like, yeah, they're basically the same, again, when you look at it overall. And also, again, it's the same thing. But again, when it comes down to it, every single team is position is going to be more important than other ones. So I'm not going to, this is just basically kind of looking at the league. What are these positions? How much do they actually matter for each team? And again, obviously, some are more important than others. Special teams, the overall depth of the team, and the team identity are the three things that will be talked about after we get through each side of the ball. Again, we have overall roster grade after that, and again, each letter grade level, regardless of the weight for each point level, is again on this scale. So again, if you're a quarterback, you're not going to get 15 times instead of 12 times like everyone else. So think of it like that. The weight is the standard. You're going to get 5 points if you get a D minus, basically. So that's what you think about it. Again, also the biggest thing is, if your team gets 234 points, that's kind of the guideline. That's an average roster in the NFL. And also, if I give a position group an F, which I don't think I've even done once yet this time, I don't even know if I will. It's very hard to get an F. That is 0 points. So that position literally doesn't get a single point, and it's going to kill your roster, which it should. Because again, if you have an F-graded position, good chance that'll cook you during the season. I mean, maybe not for every team, but most teams. And again, with that said, that's all I have for the explanation of this. And if you want to really get an in-depth thing of that, go to back to that Titans 1 first roster grade there, Orifront is what it's called. And with that said, let's get the quarterback position out of the way for the Panthers. And if you watch the offseason short for the Panthers, which came out, I think, a day ago, something like that, I really don't know. I talked about Bryce Young and how I think he'll win MVP, and I actually do think that. So, yeah, maybe some of that's a little bit clip farming, but that's besides the point. I actually think he has a shot to do it. And you're like, what the hell? How the heck does he have to win MVP? Simply put, Bryce Young, after, week 2? That's when he sucked. He looked like a legit NFL quarterback. Again, I get his footwork is just awful, but he's going to be the exception because, I mean, I don't know how he's able to do it, but he can kind of just, shuffle his feet, and it works for him. His arm has never been the biggest thing, but, again, his ability to extend the play and just be simply, he can read out the field super well, and just the overall anticipation and his instincts are second to none, I think, in terms of what we saw last year just on film. It was great to see because that's what you thought of him coming out of the draft. Again, before he was able to do that, again, after getting that start back in week 8, again, he was absolutely horrible the first 2 weeks. Again, if you saw the offseason short, there was a lot of slander, not slander, just a lot of things said about him that weren't very positive. Again, as a rookie, probably one of the most disastrous seasons ever. He was awful. Booster seat Bryce, as I like to call him. But after again those first 2 starts and he got benched, and he came back after getting benched, he was great. Again, but he's still not anything insane. So again, that's what I say. You can't act it's make or break for Bryce Young this year. There's no way already. He's got to definitely step up. But those last games there, and obviously the Week 18 game where he had 5 total touchdowns, pretty good coming into this year. Andy Dalton's a very respectable backup. Yes, again, we'll look at his game log. The numbers aren't great, but he's also 37. He's basically just pocket passing quarterback with a super diminished arm. He never had the strongest arm in the league, but now it's definitely not the greatest. All right. Again, he didn't really play much because they were getting blown out so bad in week 1. But again, he came into the after Bryce Young got benched in week 3. This was the worst team in the league, and they blew out the Raiders. He had a massive game for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. But after that, it really didn't go so well. Against the Bengals, I don't think he played too bad. But then he didn't look really good against the Bears at all. And then against the Falcons, they didn't really do much either. And then he looked horrible against Panthers, and then got benched. Not against the Panthers, against the Commanders when they lost 40-7 week 7, got benched. So yeah, kind of like it started great, but it didn't just kind of went downhill after that last year when he started. So for a backup quarterback, Andy Dalton's okay, but like you're not gonna really like think he's like anything insane. Like you don't want him as a long-time starter. Again, look at Andy Dalton. Ever since he left the Bengals back in 2019, he's really only season where he actually was like a pretty solid player was probably 2022, where he threw 18 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and it was a starter for the Saints team that was very mediocre. With that said, though, Jack Plummer's their third-string quarterback. I think he's a guy who actually has some sort of NFL like. I wouldn't even say caliber play, but he's a guy you could definitely see being a decent NFL, backup, because he does have a decent arm. I do like his field progressions, and also, again, he's just a prototypical quarterback. Again, him actually being a starter, absolutely not. He's not even close to an NFL starting caliber quarterback, but I just think, watching him on film, that's a guy who could be a decent backup. Ethan Garbers. Last quarterback we'll talk about him. We'll do very, very quick on him. He played at UCLA last year. I kind of forgot that he was there a couple of years. He's absolutely atrocious. UCLA was just god-awful last year. And he was a big part of them being that bad. I think, how many interceptions did he have? What the heck? Yeah, he threw 11. Yeah, he was awful last year. 2023, I think he was decent, but he, again, never really did much of any sort of productive things that, what is it called? UCLA, again, he's a pretty good athlete, but, that's all he has, and I would be shocked to make the roster. With that said, though, for the Panthers quarterback position, I think the best I can do for Bryce Young is a C+, because that's kind of what he played like for most of last season, to be honest with you, after he got benched. So, yeah, and I think that's the best I could do with him. I think a C would definitely be a lot more fair. But at the same time, I'm really high on Bryce Young going into next year, which a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, he was good last year. But, I'm trying to, be realistic here. Obviously, he's not going to win MVP, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I'm right. I'm the only person that said that. So, people are like, oh, yeah, he'll be good. But I'm like, no, he'll win MVP. So, even doubling down on that. Anyway, though, C is where he should, I think is more realistic, but I'm going to give him a C+, because I think that's the highest you can actually give him. So, 30 points is what I'm going to reason out there. And again, being Andy Dalton's decent back, I think that does help out there anyway. Now, let's get the skill position for what Bryce Young will be working with next year. And off the bat, you have to be happy with what the Panthers are going to be getting out of running back, which you really weren't too happy about last year, because Chuba Hubbard was the top 10 running back in football last year. He ran for 1,200 yards in only 15 games. Because you remember, he did miss the last 2 games. So he needed that walk-off touchdown to end his season on a very high note. Very big season from him. Does he have a contract? I swear he got a new contract. Right? Yeah, because he got a new contract, right? I swear he did, right? Yeah, he got a new contract. Well-earned contract from him. Again, he was not good as a rookie. He did a decent job in 2022 as kind of like a backup sort of dude. And then in 2023, he got a lot of carries. And, he was really the only guy in that offense doing anything, even though he wasn't very good. Then last year, obviously, had a massive year, and he got a huge contract. And, yeah, he's a really good running back. Rico Dowdle. Again, he's not a great receiver. Rico Dowdle, yes, he had 1,000 yards last year, but I was not moved by his season whatsoever. I think, I'm he's a decent player. But, let's be honest, guys, the Cowboys' offensive line was very good last year on, an overall note. And again, he is a guy who I think could be pretty valuable as a receiver, but in terms of actual starting running back, I don't really think much of him. Yeah, he had 1,000 yards. Cool. A lot of running backs can run for 1,000 yards. So, yeah, Rico Dowdle I think is a decent back, but it's a backup. I think he's really much more well-suited than a starter because, he did his best last year. I'll give him that, but, he's nothing special. Trevor Etienne, he is not a guy that I'm very excited about coming to the league. Again, there were things, he definitely showed some flash. Again, he's Travis Etienne's brother and all that. But, at the end of the day, guys, he's just not a guy you're going to really be like, holy crap, this guy's, really, really freaking good. Yes, as a receiver, he does provide some versatility. He's got some talent overall, but, it's just not really moved by him. Raheem Blackshear has been, a back for this team for a while. He hasn't really done much the past couple of years. And he had, I think it was 2022. He got a couple opportunities, but he's decent. I don't know, freaking special teamer, who knows? But for a fourth back, he should be pretty happy. But if I'm gonna be honest with this Panthers running back room, I'll probably give them a B+. I really like Chuba Hubbard. I think Rico Dowdle's a pretty solid backup. Again, I don't think he's a great back by any means. But again, the depth there is pretty solid. You gotta be pretty happy if you're if you're Dave Canales thinking about this running game going next year. It's pretty solid overall. All right, you can give it a B. I wouldn't say an A- though. All right, now looking at receiver, Ted McMillan has a lot on his shoulders, especially for a guy who got a little bit trouble creating separation last year. And yes, despite being a very good guy at the top of his route, having decent speed, and his release package being more developed than you might have thought. Again, he's going to be asked to do a lot this year, and I don't really know if he'll be able to do that. But again, at the same time, he was the best receiver outside of Travis Hunter in this draft class. And again, I liked him a lot coming out, so that's good about him. But again, there's definitely some things he needs to answer. Adam Thielen is so old. He's 34. He still put up 600 yards last year in only 10 games. I still don't know how he had 1,000 yards in 2023. After really, honestly, a 2022 season where you're like, is he going to retire? He's really done a good job with the Panthers this past couple years. The only question is, for a guy who, again, has had some injury issues throughout his career, despite, 2 years ago playing all 17 games, is he really going to be a guy you can consistently count on? I would say he's a number 3 despite his age, but that's kind of being nice, to be honest with you. Xavier Legette was awful last year. I'm sorry. He's a guy, I'm like, this is a guy who has potential to be number 1 receiver. They took him in the first round. I'm like, yeah, I really like that pick. He was just not good last year. There was only that one game against the Saints where I'm like, yeah, he looked pretty decent. I'm like, that would probably be an average game you'd want out of him. But he was just not good last year. There's no way around it. He's got to prove himself this year, or he's just going to get left in the dust. It's kind of like that. Because Jalen Coker, who I'm like, who the hell is this guy at Holy Cross? I'm like, yeah, we saw it a little bit there at Holy Cross. Like, he's a pretty solid player. But again, being Division 1 AA, you're like, what the hell? So, yeah, he was a guy you're like, oh, he could do something last year, man. I love the name, too. But still, Jalen Coker proved himself last year. He will be a guy who will get targets this year. Hunter Renfrow, might be comeback player of the year, considering 2022 he was probably the worst player in the entire NFL. I mean, he was just so bad that year. I completely forgot he was on the Raiders in 2023. Did not play at all last year. He's trying to make a comeback. I'm rooting for him. But honestly, let's be honest, guys. He's probably the 3rd best receiver on this team. If he be honest with you guys, it's kind of how it is. Because Adam Thielen, I still think he's probably better player than Hunter Renfrow. But again, if we're talking about Hunter Renfrow, like is makes a resurgence. But again, that's probably what I say. Because, Hunter Renfrow had that 1,000-yard season with the Raiders. He's not a bad player. David Moore, he's a very weird player. Because, yeah, he had 300 yards last year. He was a decent player, but he really has never been a guy who's been consistent whatsoever. But he is explosive. He's very good in terms of physicality. I just don't know if he'll be a guy who actually get that many targets. Jamie Horn, I really like this pick they made, again, out of Colorado. Yeah, he's not the most flashy receiver by any means, but he was a very big piece of Shedeur having the season he did. Again, kind of got overshadowed as well, but he's a solid player. Like, you got to realize that. Dan Chisna and the rest of these guys are kind of bums, but they actually go 17 receiver. Like, I can talk about these guys. I'm like, yeah, there's a legit shot they could be good. Again, Hunter Renfrow's a guy trying to do something crazy. But anyway, this receiving room is so lackluster. I'll give them a C plus. That might be nice. We'll give them a C because yeah, Ted McMillan is like that might be a little bit mean, but like. Super deep receiving room, but they honestly, you can't realistically tell me they have a true number 1 receiver by any means. And I'm even questioning a number 2 because, Adam Thielen is not a number 2 receiver at this point. I'm sorry. You can't have him be doing that. I mean, he's going to do it, but, it should not be how it is. And Ted McMillan is a guy, yeah, he should be really good, but, is he? I don't know. You don't want to put that much on a first receiver. So, not the greatest situation here. Again, a lot of guys need to step up, and, they don't really have, a true number. I think it's C. I've been harsh. I'll give him a C+. Again, now that I think about it, these receiving rooms have been a lot harder on than they should have been, so I'm going to say 18 points there. Again, I think, the Falcons, I realized that last time, too, but whatever. We'll get into that. But realistically, I think a C+ might be a little too nice. I don't know. Because, definitely better than the Titans receiving room, but how much? So, I'll give it a C. I'm going to be harsh because I was nice with the Falcons last time. That's 15 points. All right, tight end. Still not good, but it's looking a little better. Tommy Tremble's a guy that I'm just not really excited about, to be honest with you. He was there, again, he's been here since 2021. Never has had a season where you're like, yeah, he looks like a starting caliber tight end. As a blocker, he's been okay. You're going to get that quality athleticism out of here with him, but he's not really a starting caliber tight end. Jatavion Sanders, a decent rookie year overall, considering, again, he really didn't have, that many, great chances. I always knew coming into the league he's going to be an average blocker. I mean, maybe not at worst, but, that's probably going to best getting out of him. You kind of got that out of him last year. I think he's a guy who should be starting with this team, but again, at the same time, he's not really going to be anything more than an average guy if I had to expect this year. Still needs a lot to develop there. Mitchell Evans, they drafted him out of Notre Dame. He is their best blocker in this entire offense, outside of, obviously, the offensive lineman. He's actually that good, so we'll see how they use him there. And Dominic Daphne is a guy that I think could make this roster. With that said, the list, we're tight end room's probably going to be a C-, because, yeah, there's decent depth. I think Jatavion Sanders is an average player, but, it's still not very good when we think about it in the grand scheme of things. Not really any proven production. But, yeah, Jatavion Sanders should be a pretty solid player. I like what's going on there, but at the same time, this has been a team that has really lacked production from the tight end room for a pretty long time now, ever since Greg Olsen left. And, I mean, yeah, Jatavion Sanders, pretty solid numbers in terms of receiving last year, but consistency and overall wasn't great. So I definitely need to see a little bit more out of him there. And again, we know Tommy Tremble is not a starting caliber tight end. With that said, time for the offensive line. And looking at the offensive line for the Panthers, I'm super torn on Ikem Ekwonu. I'll tell you, the PFF doesn't look terrible on him. This is gonna load. There we go. Ikem Ekwonu. There we go. The PFF doesn't look bad. what is it? 80.5 run blocker, 71. Better than what we saw in 2023. But at the same time, like, is he really a guy you're gonna really warrant a massive contract to? Like, I don't know if you want to do it. Yeah, as a rookie, he showed a lot of flashes, very inconsistent, good run blocker for sure. And then, that was his thing. Like 6th overall pick. Yeah, he's going to be one of the best run blockers in the entire league. 2023, flat out was atrocious. Last year, I think he was definitely better overall. Kind of got back to being a dominant run blocker. Still not as good as a pass protector, but I think if he's able to be somewhat like last year's pass protector and even enhance his run blocking performance, he will be a guy that I think will be one of that contract, but I just don't know if that yet. He's a weird player to think about, but again, he's a good player. Again, we talk about like in terms of an actual value. Brady Christensen is a guard. I do not know why he's out here tackle, but I guess he's somewhat versatile, solid pass protector, but there's a reason he hasn't played a lot. It's because he's atrocious as a run blocker, and he just overall struggles in some of those speedier guys. Damian Lewis, this is a guy coming over from Seattle who I don't really ever think got like a great season out of him, but he was always at least a decent player, and I think he'll be decent here. Chandler Zavala is a decent depth piece, but like I said, he's not like it's starting starting caliber offensive lineman. Pretty simple there. Austin Corbett was unbelievable in 2022. 2023, he got injured. I kind of forgot what happened to him last year, to be completely honest. I think I only watched like maybe 40 snaps of his. Yeah, that's like being completely honest with you. So I really don't know what to go too off of him last year. Yeah, he only played 5 games. But yeah, 2023 was probably top 5 center in the NFL. 2023 injured, last year injured. That kind of makes sense. I kind of completely forgot about him getting injured. But whatever. Robert Hunt, great right guard. Taylor Moen, horrible in 2023. Bounced back year last year. Again, he's been the right tackle for like, 7, 8 years now. Quality player. Cade Mays is a solid backup center. Ja'Tari Carter was horrible with the Bears, but I think he is a guy that has some sort of potential there. Josh Niesman was good with that 1 year with Aaron Rodgers won MVP, but again, he's kind of been bouncing around and not really on a lot of teams recently because he's just overall not a great player. With that said, though, amazing depth in this O-line. I like the starters as well. I think I'll give them a B here. You could even argue a B+. I just don't think they have a true elite offensive lineman. Like Damian Lewis last year. Again, I said they never got a truly great season on him. They gave him a big contract. Again, he overall is pretty good last year. Again, pretty solid guard situation. I mean, honestly, you could probably even give him a B+. But I don't consider any of these guys like premier guys. That's the only issue. Like, I'd probably say Austin Corbett, who hasn't been able to stay healthy, is the best offensive lineman on this team. And again, like I said, he's not healthy. So, like, what are you going to say? Robert Hunt's the next guy? And no one's saying Robert Hunt's an elite player. So, you could argue, honestly, I'll probably give it a B+, because I really like this group. That's going to be, what is that? 6, 12, 18 points for the offensive line. And then when we input that to the overall offensive grade, that's going to be equal to 30 plus 27 plus 15 plus 10 plus 18. That's going to get us to 100 points for this offense, which I honestly don't think is too bad. That's going to put them in the C+ tier, which I think is pretty fair. They should be pretty decent last year. That's kind of where they ended last year. And they did get a little bit better, but like how much is the real question. With that said, that's all I got for the offense. Let's get in this defense, starting it out with the front 7. We have another 3-4 defense, which is nice because, I mean, I kind of want to talk about this D-line, which is very interesting. Anyway, they'll get in the front 7. Here we are. Derek Brown, who got injured. I don't even know. He played like week 1, right? Yeah, he got injured in week 1 against the Saints. Didn't play at all. He was the best defensive tackle in football in 2023. Broke the record for what is it called? Tackles for a defensive tackle in a season. He's the best run defender in the entire NFL. Again, I get the injury and stuff, and there's like concerns about him. But again, when he's on the field, he's the best run defender in the league and a top 4 or 3 defensive tackle in football. LeBron Rates a solid backup. He didn't really do too much last year. That was really anything of note. But like, I don't really care. He's a decent player. He's consistent on film. He doesn't give up massive holes. Bobby Brown, former Rams defensive tackle. He really was never been a guy you're like, he's really that good. But again, for a solid starter, again with those. With a guy like Kobe Turner next to him, he did do a decent job for us. He's young. He'll be a solid player for them at nose tackle. Again, you're not going to expect like an insane production from him, but he'll be a solid run defender. He'll get a little pressure here and there. Shy Tuttle's a guy who in the past is like, yeah, you'll get a good amount of pressure out of him. Again, with the Saints, that was his big calling card for the nose tackle. He's going to get you pressure. He'll be a solid run defender. The past few years, Panthers, that hasn't really been the case in terms of the pass rush production, the penetration. But for a guy, again, solid run defender on film, he's kind of been a little bit more conservative. I think he'll be definitely a decent depth piece. Tershawn Warren is definitely a better starter than the guy we'll get to in a minute. But again, he blew up last year with 6.5 sacks. I don't know if that's really going to be consistent because you didn't really see the greatest pressure numbers from him on film. He really was like a one-trick pony with his power rush, and also is pretty good off the line. But Ashawn Robinson isn't a guy who's going to really be getting you too much pressure. He's 30 now. Yeah, last season with the Panthers, legitimately really solid production, but I don't think like the efficiency was really there, and I think a guy like Tershawn Warren can definitely provide a solid ceiling. But as a depth piece, you could argue he's one of the best, I wouldn't say backup, but one of the best rotational interior defensive linemen in football. He produced last year. There's no way around it, but I just don't think he's as good as Tershawn Warren. Like, that's the simple truth about it. With that said, though, Cam Jackson, Sam Roberts, and Jaden Cromartie, I would be shocked if they got on the field this year. Maybe, I don't know, in like a blowout or something. But this is a really solid defensive line. I'll probably give them a B+ here. it's really good. You could even do I put it in the A tier? I think I might. I'm gonna give them an A minus. Because like Derek Brown's like he's about as good as it gets. Tarshawn Warren is coming off a great season, a lot of huge ceiling. Bobby Brown's a solid guy here, and they got great depth. Like I don't know why they wouldn't get in the A tier. I don't think I can give them an A though, because Tarshawn Warren is coming off 1 year, and at the same time he's not an elite player. So I mean, you can even argue to give them an A. I wouldn't be mad about that, but like. I'm going to say it an A minus because considering how awful they've been against the run the past couple years, I don't know if that's going to really help. Like, I think an A minus is being fair. I think you can give them an A for sure. Their depth is definitely going to be speaking volumes here. But, like, I don't see Tarshawn Warren or Bobby Brown as, like, a guy who's even close to a guy like Derek Brown on that sort of level. So I think that is fair to give him an A minus. But great defensive line. That's going to be 6, 12, 18, 21 points for the D line. Now looking at this linebacking core. So it's a group that was admittedly not good last year. Josie Jewell, I think, did his best trying to still be a quality, coverage guy. Because, let's be honest, this Panthers coverage, pass coverage last year wasn't terrible. They actually haven't been bad ever since Yashiro Evero showed up. But they've been terrible against the run for a reason. He's a guy, misses a lot of tackles. Like, that's just a simple truth. He's not going to make a ton of, he's going to miss tackles. But outside of that, not the most flawed either. So, I mean, again, part of the reason I just don't think this, again, with Derek Brown, this D on let's paper mache a lot of last year. Again, like, Asian Robinson, number-wise, like, was pretty solid. But like I said, kind of paper mache in a lot of ways. So, Josie Jewell, kind of hard, got a great, sort of a grade out, but he's still a quality player. Christian Roseman last year, very athletic, was a solid linebacker for the Rams, despite a lot of bad plays on film. I think he's a guy next to a guy like Josie Jewell, who, again, is definitely a little bit more pass rush or pass coverage oriented. He could definitely do a lot of more things he wanted to. Trevin Wallace last year was kind of up against the wall. Again, this is a guy who you're not like really expecting to be great, but again, I think he did do a solid job holding up there. So again, they do have good depth here. Again, out of Kentucky, I'm like, he's not a guy who really like you don't want him starting, but I think he did do a decent job in the role he did have. Jacoby Wyndham is not great. John Radigan has never really cracked the starting lineup. Claude and Cherilus is a solid backup, I guess. Teamer S there. But again, with Jacoby Wyndham, he got some pretty decent play time last year. I just never really thought he was a guy I'm like, yeah, you'd be a starter. But as a backup guy, you'd be pretty happy with. This linebacking core is tough to grade out, but I'd probably give them a C+, because I think Josie Jewell's a solid player. They got decent depth. Christian Roseman, like, is he a starting caliber player? Iffy. But I think they will amount to 18 points with that. Now looking at this pass rush as a whole, DJ Wanham had a really solid year last year. And again, only 8 games with the Panthers, I understand that. But again, 2020, he had legit production with the Vikings as a kind of not really starter player there. Again, he got injured last year, but he got consistent pressure for them. He's a guy who's going to be solid against the run. But again, overall, is DJ Wanham a true number 1 guy? I don't know if that's really fair to say, especially with that injury he had. But again, before the wheels fell off, I think he was a pretty solid guy overall for them. Nick Scorin, I wasn't huge on this pick. Again, I think it was a decent one overall, but is he really your number 2 passer? Let's be honest. I think he can definitely be that because he's got some pretty good potential overall. But he's a guy, you want him to be good against the run, but is he really going to be able to do that? In terms of pass rush consistency and his development of his toolbox, definitely need to see more there. Pat Jones, he's another guy is he really going to be that great? Again, when we look at Nick Scorin, I just want to go back to him. Where we can get to this if it loads. There we go. All right. Where are we looking? Edge. Nick Scorin was my, where is he? He's my 8th guy, 76.1. Yeah, that makes sense. So it wasn't a terrible pick. But yeah, anyway, Pat Jones. He had that one. He's put up pass rush numbers as a backup and pretty solid. Pressure numbers, very consistent. His win rate isn't like Bryce Huff's though, so the fact they are gonna probably put him in a similar role to that again the Eagles tried to do last year is a little bit scary because Bryce Huff with what is it called, the Eagles, not the Eagles. The Jets in 2023. He registered the highest pass rush win rate for a guy who got certain minimum snaps that I think I saw in the past 5 years. It was insane. Pat Jones doesn't have that. In fact, again, the Panthers run a similar system to the Eagles tried doing a lot of ways. I just don't know if that'll work out, but he's a solid player. TJ Johnson, he's not been good. Simple put, has not been a good guy. Prince Ananamilian, cannot pronounce his name. I like him a lot. A lot of concerns though in terms of his actual starting caliber play and in terms of his ceiling, but I like him a lot. So some solid film again, but wasn't as good as you might have wanted to. Amari Barno probably shouldn't be on this team anymore. Boogie Basham is kind of a bust for what the Bills want him to be. But with that said, this edge rushing group is a little bit lackluster. Overall, this pass rush will probably give a B-. That might be a little bit nice, but there's a lot of interesting guys here, and I do think it should be decent. Honestly, this is tough. B- might be nice. We'll probably say a C+, because That C plus B minus thing is probably where it is. Like in the interior should be good though, so I'll be nice to give them a B minus. I think they'll be a decent pass rush this year. That'll be 12, 24, and 32 points. But again, what it really comes down to, guys, for this front seven is if they can stop the run. Because if they're not able to do that, like they've been so bad the past couple years, their pass rush, which I think does have some potential, should be decent. But like, it's a weird group going on there. Now let's get in the secondary. And when you dig into the Panthers cornerback room, it's again, there's no other way to talk about it. It's J.C. Horn or bust. Like, I was shocked he stayed healthy for 15 games last year. Again, the narrative for the first 3 years of his career, because again, 2022 he was an alien when he was on the field. But the narrative is like he cannot stay healthy. Last year, he stayed on the field. He wasn't quite as good in terms of the statistics and consistency on film with his coverage, but he's still probably a top 5 talented corner in the league. He's an elite player when he's on the field. But like I said, shocked he played that many games last year. Played really good snaps for them, but at the same time, wasn't quite as consistent and as like in terms of the pass coverage grade as great. And we're not talking about like Pro Football References. It's another story. But still, like when I saw on film, he's still an elite player. So you got to be there. Michael Jackson, I think he's a guy who could be solid. To be honest with you guys, it's a true starting caliber player, but he just gets burned. That's like the simple truth. There's just moments like, yeah, it wasn't good. He's also, 28 now, and he's never really gotten like, that one season with the Seahawks where like, yeah, he played a lot, but like he's not really a true cornerback to be completely honest with you as well. So it's weird with him. In coverage, again, he's gonna wrap guys up. Maybe he's a really solid tackle, but again, true coverage, not the greatest. Shaw Smith-Wade is a guy that no one talks about because no one knows about him. He had a pretty solid rookie season. It's kind of how it went for him. He's got some really fun things again in terms of his skills. But like overall, now he's not the greatest slot to have. But he was decent last year. Shamar Bartholomew is not a guy you want in the field. Caleb Evans is not good. Simple truth there. But Sean Bartholomew, yeah, he's just not great. So pretty simply put, there's no depth at cornerback for this team. So if J.C. Horn gets hurt, they're cooked. But I mean, the starters are decent. So like, I guess that's okay. I'll probably give them a B, C plus at corner. That's being nice. Because like he's not really a true corner, but like what he provides is solid. J.C. Horn's elite. Shaw Smith-Wade I think is solid, but like there's absolutely no depth. So like I'm torn of even giving him a C plus. But I think it is fair considering how good of a number one they have. So 12 points. Now for safety. Trayvon Moehrig has always been an above average quality player. Never really in coverage. I mean, I'd say 2022 is probably the only season I'm like, yeah, he had a plus guy in coverage. But you always know you're going to get in terms of as a box guy. He's very good at covering in terms of like over the top sort of things. But like down and out basis, he does get beat a little bit. His doesn't have elite instincts or anything like that, but he's a very good player. Again, there's a good thing they signed him. Nick Scott is not what they're going to have with Xavier Woods as a free safety. He had one good year with the Rams in 2021, again in the playoffs. 2022 kind of was burnt toast. 2023 and 2024 with the with the Bengals and Panthers, not great either. Again, I loved him in 2021 because he was so good that year, but like ever since he's just kind of been bad. Lathan Ransom's a guy who I think could start at some point. Again, doesn't have maybe the athletic ability that a guy like Trayvon Moehrig has for, again, a true starter. But he's a smart player, technically good, and again, also, again, like I said, he's smart, so he's not going to get burned as much. On a good note. Damani Richardson got a good amount of playing time last year. Very boring to watch, to be completely honest with you. I think I fell asleep a couple times, but like overall, he's not a guy I have too many complaints about. But overall, this safety room is kind of just like whatever. I'll probably give them a C plus as well. That might be nice. I think a C would be better because I don't really think they have a true starter outside of Trayvon Moehrig. So we're going to say a C, which is going to be 9, 15 points. They never have really had a good free safety outside of Xavier Woods for the past couple of years. And when we look at calculating this overall defensive grade and also taking into account that they're so bad against the run, that's gonna hurt them in their grade. That's all I'll say because they've been so bad like statistically against the run. 98 points. That's going to put them in the C tier, which I think is where they've sit, because unless their run defense improves, I don't really know what to give them. So, yeah, C's what the heck. C, there we go. C, now let's see what the special teams unit looks like and some other things before we figure out what its overall roster grade is. All right, this Panthers special teams unit has had better days, to say the least. Again, ever since they lost Graham, they've kind of had a kicking issue of sorts. Again, Eddie Pinheiro was good. Last year, in how many games? What was it? 5? Matthew Wright kicked pretty well. He earned himself a starting spot. Is he actually a starting caliber kicker? Who knows? I know he doesn't have the biggest leg, though. Ryan Fitzgerald is a guy who's a much bigger leg. He was probably the best kicker coming out of the draft out of Florida State. He's a beast. Again, kicking battle going on there. Sam Martin, again, former Bills punter. He's kind of a journeyman guy, kind of an average punter overall. Jimmy Horn I think is a solid punter returner, but he's not the fastest. Trevor Etienne will get is me consistent kicker returner for them. J.J. Jensen's been their long snapper a while. Overall, this special team unit does not wow me though, and has question with the kicking unit, so I'll probably give them a C minus. That's going to be 4 points for the special team unit, which again, you might not think is that good, but like who cares? Depth. All right, quarterback depth, I'd give a B because Andy Dalton's solid backup. Running back depth, I'd probably give a B plus because, I mean, there's definitely worse groups. So far, I'd probably say we're at a B plus. Or no, B for their depth. Receiver depth, there's a lot of names, but are they actually that good? I do think, though, like, legitimately, they have a lot of guys, so, and I can consistently say are going to be decent players for them. But again, considering it's like top end. So we're thinking, like, how many guys? They have 7 guys that can be counted on. So I'd probably say that's probably a B minus. So we're probably seeing a B so far for their depth. Tight end depth, I'd give a B plus. So we're probably still sitting at a solid B. O-line depth, I'll give it an A minus. So we're probably up to a B plus now. D-line depth, I'd also give an. Do I give it an A? I think I'll give it an A. So an A for their depth, we're probably up to an A minus. Pass rush depth is lackluster. I'd probably give it a C plus. So if I had to guess, we're probably down to a B plus. A B plus. I'd probably give their linebacker depth a B. So I think we're still sitting at a B plus. Cornerback depth is a flat out F. It's awful. They have literally no one outside of their top 3. So I'd probably say at this point they're down to a B minus. Cornerback depth isn't great, but I think it's safety depth isn't great, but I think it's a little bit better. So we'll probably say that's a C minus. I think if we're gonna put that overall in amount, it's probably a B minus. Outside of their secondary, they're a pretty darn deep team. I don't have any complaints about that. Like, again, it's just the fact they don't really have any. Like, Caleb Evans is just a guy you can't have start. And again, the depth of safety is kind of unknown. So I'd say a B minus is fair for them because again, it's pretty simple. If they had a deeper cornerback room, it would be in the A tier. There's no around it. But it's like they literally have no one. It's freaking Cameron. Like, what else am I supposed to give them? That's gonna be 12, 24, and 28 points. And then we look at the identity of this football team. Offensively, got a lot of good weapons. The question is, who's gonna step up receiver? Is Ty McMillan gonna be good enough? If he is, and Bryce Young takes takes an even another step, they should be pretty solid. That offensive line I like a lot. But at the same time, like someone's got to give. Defensively, it's pretty simple. Ajiro Evero's got to figure out a way for them not to get destroyed. Completely have those blow up quarters where they just get like 40-yard gains like back to back to back. They have a lot of talent on this defense. The question is, with again not a deep secondary and the pass rush really not having a true like figurehead. Is it really going to be that good of a defense this year? They've been bad, again, in terms of the, what is it called? Run defense. So bad the past years. It's got to change. Ajiro Evero, love him as a defense coordinator, but there's no way around it. Statistically, his run defenses have been atrocious with the Panthers. That's got to change. It's a big question mark. That's why I'm going to give the Panthers a C for their identity. Like Dave Canales a lot. I think they're going to be doing a lot of good things this year. But outside of saying that Bryce Young's going to win the MVP, this defense has a lot of questions, and again, they got to answer them. Again, if they're not able to, this team's not going to have a great season. So that's going to be 15, 25 points. And after all that, let's figure out what the total points is so we can figure out what the letter grade for this roster is. And the total points amount to 255 for the Carolina Panthers. That is going to put them in the 255. That's going to put them slightly in the C plus tier, which I think is pretty fair. This is a pretty talented roster overall. They got a lot of good things going for them, but at the same time, there's definitely some weaknesses. The depth in the secondary cannot be overstated. Lack of depth in the secondary cannot be overstated. Again, there's a lot of good things going on for them, though. I think they've definitely improved this offseason. Again, there's questions if the receiving these weapons, pass catchers are that great, and if Bryce Young is really going to be that great. I hope he is, but is that going to actually happen? We'll see. So 255 points for this Panthers roster that's going to come up to a C+, which is definitely better than last year. With that said, that is all I have for the Carolina Panthers. Hope you guys enjoyed this, Panthers fans. And yeah, see you for I guess the next team. And yeah, here's a hint at it. I think you could definitely figure it out pretty quickly.
There's Nix going for the long ball. He's got a step on him. And the Broncos strike early with the touchdown to Franklin from 43 yards out.
And this is why you don't want to play a Sean Payton team who has a young quarterback. And like I said, he's been playing as well as any quarterback. 4 touchdowns last week, 7 touchdowns in the last 6, 7 quarters. He's going to put Franklin in a tight split. And these safety and corner play in between a lot. You got outside, I got inside. Sean runs him right